Your destination is on the left.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you. I'm so excited. When I was there, I was like, I know you.
Saw you about February, that Neo
Exactly,
show.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you took the drive. How long was the drive for you?
A little over an hour, not too bad. It's
Oh,
better
okay.
than when we lived in Lamar. We lived then too, so.
Okay, good. Okay, good,
Yeah.
good. Well, if you want, we can dive in. We are live on camera. It's my entrance. You like it?
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
How are you doing? I'm Corin.
Melinda, you can call me Mindy. I go by either.
Yes. Now we have met each other before.
Yes, at the
so,
Neo Show
yeah.
ArtCon.
Yeah, the Neo Show ArtCon, which was a really good time, to be honest.
Yeah,
Very well
It
run.
was my first one of anything like that. I'd never gone to one of those before
Well,
either.
fortunately, you went to a small one. And
Yeah.
you didn't get overwhelmed.
Yeah, I have crowd issues, so it was easy for me to go. I don't have really bad crowd anxiety,
Okay.
so.
Well, that's I skedaddled everybody. So.
Oh, just usually when they're real close.
Well, this is so cool of you to do this. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. And with what we're trying to do here, the more voices that we can listen to, I think the better off we are. Where were you born?
Lamar, Missouri.
Lamar,
Birthplace of Harry
Missouri.
S. Truman, and oh God, now I'm on the spot. I can't remember. Tombstone guy.
Oh,
Sorry.
which not Doc Holliday,
No.
but the
Kurt Russell.
Oh, you mean the actual actors from there,
No.
or the
who he played? Oh my God.
Yeah,
I
who
can't
did
remember.
he play?
I'm-
Who was Tombstone?
I'm
Scott?
shaming myself in front of my
What
whole
was that?
hometown.
It was Wyatt Earp.
That's it. He was
Yeah.
our sheriff at one time.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Lamar.
Oh, by the way, I just want to let
Nervous.
everybody know, Scott didn't say a thing to me. I actually remembered the Wyatt Earp. He was just over there, just staring into the distance,
And my father
shaking
might
his
disown
head.
me for that. So sorry, Dad.
So the home of the well, not maybe the sheriff place of Wyatt Earp was at.
And Harry S. Truman was born there. Little bitty house.
I wouldn't be if anybody believed in reincarnation. I would not put it past Wyatt Earp being Harry S. Truman in a second life. Similar characters
Yeah.
in terms of their, strength and vigor.
The hospital I was born in got torn down about a year and a half ago, so that was kind of sad. They rebuilt one, a newer one. It was pretty old, so probably pretty old when I was born there. So.
Full of asbestos.
Probably, there's probably a good chance it may have been, because I was born many years ago. So.
How big was Lamar at that time?
Gosh, I'm not really sure. I would guess around 4,000 people.
So
It's-
really small.
If not less, it's about 4,600 now.
Oh wow.
Mhm.
And go ahead.
We recently, in the last less than 2 years, moved to, technically we have a Webb City address, but we live in the city limits of Oronogo, which has less than 1,000 people.
Wow.
So we went very small, but we both work. He works in Neo Show, and I work in Joplin. I work at an ear, nose, and throat clinic. I'm
Okay.
a receptionist. I do checkout, and I answer the phone.
And when you were growing up in Lamar, what was life like there?
It was
as a
pretty
kid?
safe, pretty simple. I mean, I remember going to the library. There wasn't, where we lived was next to where my parents worked. My grandpa Potter, when he came back from World War II, he was a CB. Him and his brother started Potter Plumbing and Heating.
Yeah.
And my parents both worked there. My dad was a plumber, and my mom was the bookkeeper. And they worked for my grandparents. And we lived in a little house next door, no kids around or anything, so I learned to amuse myself at a young age, so I read. I still remember the lady at the library. They didn't give library cards to little kids back then.
Oh really?
And I still remember she gave me a little lecture about taking care of books and how to,
How
it was
old
a
were you
big
then?
5.
Oh, 5 years old.
Yeah, I was little. I was reading at 5, pretty much.
Yeah. I'm sure I'd probably started around that. I think our educational system when we were younger, as crappy as it was, is far better than it is today.
Yeah, I think you had maybe smaller classrooms, the teachers had more time, and to be quite honest, and I'll probably offend people, children were better behaved.
Yes,
We were taught more, to be respectful of your teachers and to do what you're told.
There's definitely an anti-authoritarian thing
Yeah.
that's really exploded since certainly since the 80s. I remember when I was a kid in the 80s, we had our anti-authoritarian kind of
But
sentiment, but
not
but
as much.
it wasn't even that. It was that it wasn't that we didn't want them there. We just didn't want to get caught by them
Pretty
with our
much.
antics, and we
Yes.
totally respected what their job was to do,
Right.
was to keep the streets safe
Mhm.
and to catch the bad guys, and our job was to not get caught.
That's right, because we weren't really doing anything quite that bad. So
I was out doing graffiti art and stuff
Well,
like that, so I
probably
was.
about the time you were doing that, I was probably in college and sorority, and we were, being ornery on our own. So
What sorority?
Tri-Sig at Pitt State in Kansas.
At Pitt State in Kansas.
Yeah, back in the mid '80s.
Oh wow, that's cool.
I only got to go for 2 years because then, back then you had to pay out-of-state tuition, and we were poor. We weren't poor, but I never knew. Like Candace said, I never realized we didn't have a lot. That we had what we needed, and my parents were, if you couldn't get it, you couldn't get it. But they made their best effort. They made sure we had everything we needed.
And did your
We
parents?
had their time. We had their attention.
Did your parents stay together throughout
They're
your?
still married. They will be
Still married.
married 56 years in December.
Scott, I'm starting to think after these interviews we've been doing that the 50% divorce ratio is completely wrong. There's been so many people whose parents have
It makes you
stayed
feel even-
together.
With those half.
Yeah, it's
I've been
it's
married
wild,
29
though.
years. We've been together
29
30.
years. Okay.
I've been a Wilson longer than I was a Potter.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Growing up in a small town, your parents did both of them work?
Yes. And what the great thing was at Potter Plumbing and Heating, they sold televisions as well. So
Okay.
they would march you back to the TV room, and you'd get your little snack. A lot of times there was a garage gas station across the street. And of course, they looked out for everybody's kids. And
Yeah.
Mr. Ellswick knew I would come over after school, and he'd razz me, and he'd give me a quarter for the pop sometimes, and sometimes he'd just give me my quarter back and give me the little glass. This was back glass bottle pop
Right,
bottles,
right.
and a candy, and then he'd talk to me a little bit, and I'm sure he watched me go back across the street, and then I'd go sit down and watch TV, and sometimes I would get to go home if they had people, shopping, and so they'd run us, run me off, and they would watch me walk home, and I would have to pick up the phone and call, "I'm in the house, lock the door." And so I would watch, of course, that was like Batman when it was Adam West.
Oh,
Batman
yeah.
on TV and just sit there and enjoy it.
What
And,
about
you could
like
do that when I was
Bonanza? Were you a Bonanza
my
fan?
parents, I
or-
remember watching Bonanza. My dad loved Bonanza.
Oh,
we watched it
yeah.
all the time.
Yeah, Bonanza was a really really fun one for me. I also loved the original Twilight Zone.
Oh, yes.
Ooh,
I still watch those.
good stuff.
Yes, they
really
are.
good stuff.
Yes, they are.
One of my favorite episodes was this episode where this kid had all of his army men in the backyard, and they were all set up everywhere, and he had all these little forts and stuff
Mhm.
built for him. And then when he would go in,
Mhm.
finishing playing, they would all come to life, and it turned into a real
Oh,
war with all
yeah.
these things. It was very strange, but I loved that one because I love to play with my army men, and I loved the idea of
Oh,
thinking
yeah.
of them fighting it out when I'm not around. When you were growing up, though, was it? Would you say that you kind of had a sort of a nuclear family style
Oh, yeah.
upbringing?
Yeah, and we would go. My grandparents, my mom's parents lived in Carthage, so we'd go see them on Saturdays. And in the summers, my brother and I would each take turns spending a week with our grandparents and get spoiled rotten and probably come
Yeah.
home horrible little children. But they had a big, huge yard, and I would sit there and I would draw a map and map out their backyard and name the little areas of their yard. And he used to be a mechanic. My grandpa used to have his own mechanic shop a long time ago before I came around.
Right.
I was kind of late in life my mom was late in life for them, so they were older when we came around. And so we would kind of he'd go have coffee every morning with his cronies.
Yeah.
And we would go I'd get chocolate milk, which is a big treat, and sit there and listen to him. Of course, she'd get fussed over him. It was great. All this attention was great. 'Cause she got it. Didn't have to share it with my little brother.
You just got to soak it all
That's
up.
right. And then when I went home and he went, I had my parents all to myself, and we've kind of continued that with our boys.
Okay.
We go to the river, Cassville, Roaring River, have an RV down there. So Donnie would before we even had that, he'd take one boy camping, and the other one would stay home with me, and they would get each parent's individual attention. And then after a while, couple of weeks later, whenever it worked out, we'd swap.
Right.
And we'd do whatever that kid wanted. And they'd have that parent to themselves to all their attention, and we'd do what we wanted. But yeah, it was pretty charmed life growing up in Lamar for the most part. I mean, I could walk to the library by myself. I walked to my dentist appointments because it was just a small town. Everything was
Sure.
around. We had a big square, and all the businesses, a lot were around the square. The library was kind of off the square. Dentist was off the square. My mom had just, and I'm sure the dentist office said, she's here. You know, they keep track of it. They know you're coming if you wouldn't show up. I mean, I had to walk past the jail, and you never worried about walking past the jail or
Right.
anything. Of course, it's a little bitty, like I said, very small town. Beautiful city park. So you get to go to the park and play. And so it's really,
Maybe that's why you're not so into crowds.
maybe.
Yeah. I mean, a quintessential small town vibe, like, slow
Yeah.
and steady wins the race.
Right.
Not a lot of wild stuff going on. Maybe somebody peels out once a month. I mean,
Oh, well.
once a summer.
Well, maybe once, the kids driving and all that.
Yeah.
And that's where we raised our boys for the most part.
Okay.
We have 2 boys. But yeah, it was great growing up there. I mean, high school was rough, but and things started changing, and
What was rough about high school?
I was a dork.
You were a dork?
I was a dork. And my parents were pretty strict, so I didn't get to go run around with everybody, and I was like, oh, she can't stay out past 10 o'clock, so I didn't get asked to do a lot of stuff. So I concentrated on schoolwork, and I never gave any teachers any problem. I was that kid.
You were the quintessential student.
I was the little
You were the student
nerd that was a good kid, hardly ever got in trouble, kept, and I was so intent and so like this about it that if I gave a wrong answer out loud in class, I would almost start bawling.
Oh, wow.
Because I was that so.
Oh, that's too
worried
intense.
about it, yeah.
That's a hint too intense, huh?
Yeah.
What gave you that level of intensity, do you think, at that
I have
age?
no idea.
No?
I don't know. It just, because it embarrassed me, I think, probably more than anything else. I was embarrassed in front of these other kids because I was wrong.
Right.
And I
Did you
wasn't.
have what?
I think it affected my self-image because that's what I had as I was smart.
Right.
That's what I had. That was about all I had.
That was your shield.
That's right. So.
Did you get any of that from either your mother or your father? The intensity or the
maybe,
attention to the detail and the desire to be correct? Not right,
maybe
but
from
correct
my
with
dad
the answer.
more. He's very. I learned to persevere a lot from my dad. You don't quit. You keep up. You do it. You sign. And I did this with my boys. If you sign up for it, I don't care if you want to quit halfway through. Finish it out. And I didn't want to do swimming lessons when I was little because I didn't want to put my face in the water because I was terrified of it.
Yeah.
And my dad took me to the pool and worked with me until I could put my face in the water. And they got me, I think I had a private swimming tutor till I could do it because I was so afraid of it. And then I went from there just all the way up. Boom.
I wonder what that was from. Did you
No,
have any?
I have
no idea.
I
Like
just
if
don't,
there was
a
a
lot
recollection,
of kids
like
are
in the
scared of it.
bathtub, like maybe you fell under in the bathtub as a small kid and were under there for a little too long. I don't know. It's like
No,
strange
no.
things like that can happen.
It may have been that I don't remember,
Huh.
but I don't know if it was just, the fear of drowning, because they
Sure.
tell you be careful, don't go past where you can touch, and then, I don't know if it was just a fear. My mom was scared of the water and she never learned to swim.
Oh, well, that
So I
would
don't know
have
if maybe
something to
that
do with
might
it
have
for
been
sure.
something, but my mom taught me to be very kind. My mom is a very kind, very loving person.
Yeah.
Anytime, heartbreak or anything, that's who I beeline for. She was always there, always listens. Still
love
is
that.
always there, still always listens.
I love
And my
that.
dad's still there for me. They're, we see them when we can.
So it sounds to me like that, that you're pretty driven, pretty determined, especially on the education side of things. Did you have an early passion for an idea about what you wanted to become in life?
I went through so many things. Everything I still have trouble settling to one interest to pursue because I look at, oh God, that is so cool. That is so interesting. That is interesting. I like to take pictures. I like to do crafts. I like to read about, I love history, and I like science. I just like, that's things that just interest me, and I will, read up on that particular thing that grabs my interest.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm probably a little ADHD maybe in there somewhere that flip from.
Sure.
But I've done it, dabble a little in all different kinds of crafts like Pam did.
Oh,
Probably
cool.
not as good as she is, but just fiddle around with stuff like that.
That's great. Well, what did you do after? What did you do when you left high school then?
I went right to college and went for 2 years, and then I didn't have my summer job. It was not available, so I had to go to work, and I just never got to go back, which I do regret, that I never would have met my husband or had my kids. So
What were you studying at the time?
I was an accounting major for my mom, and I was psychology major for myself. So and I probably would have burned out on psychology, to be quite honest. She was probably pretty right about that, because I am like her, very tenderhearted. I put a lot of myself in things, and it would have probably
Well, also, a bachelor's in psychology gets you nothing.
right.
Except for a bachelor's in psychology.
Yeah.
So you either
So-
have to go for the master's and the doctorate
Right.
if you really want to, do something with it. So which is a long haul.
Right.
When you had to leave school, though, being already in a sorority, having sorority sisters, that camaraderie.
Yeah.
Was it rough when
It
it
was
got
very
pulled the
rough.
plug? When they pulled the plug?
It was very rough. I missed that. That was the first time they brought me out of my shell.
Right.
I was being to, be a little more where I could stand up for myself and not let people, I was very passive
Right.
about, and that's where I started kind of learning that, you don't have to be like that. You can stand up for yourself. It's okay. And
Yeah.
I did miss it a lot. But it did help me when I went. So they made me get a job after that, but I was going to work a year and go back, and you start earning money, and it's very hard and you drift apart from them, and a year is a long time in
lifetime.
college. It's a long time. Everybody's moving on, they're
Yeah.
leaving you behind. So I went to work at a place called O'Sullivan's, which was ready to assemble furniture. It was ran a family-run company.
Okay.
And I started out working in the factory, just checking the parts and making sure that they were okay. And I worked my way up to office in one of the departments. And then I worked my way up to the mailroom, and then I worked my way up to being an order processor. And then my youngest son, that's actually where I met my husband, was working there. I had a boss that when I worked in his office kept trying to fix me up with all these guys. I was like, and he just happened to walk by and say, hey. And I walked in, I said, what about that guy? And he said, oh no, I'll go find out. He goes, hey, guess what? I got you a date for Saturday night. And I said, are you serious? He goes, yeah. I said, okay. But she said, you got to go talk to him. I said, I don't want to do that. So we did, and we got married 7 months later.
Okay.
We've been married for 29 years. Just together, just over 30. Got 2 boys. Our oldest, Casey, he is an Army reservist. He's down at Fort Hood doing his year he's a combat medic. He's trained as a combat medic. And he graduated from Wichita State. And he was doing counseling he was a social worker, but he did the counseling part. So that's what, I guess, my psychology went to him.
Right.
So that's what he does, and he can do the tough love with him. He's got a little more iron in his backbone than his mommy does.
The one thing that I am noticing is it seems like that even though there were some hiccups along the way, you seem to have acquired enough critical thinking and enough character and intelligence, to avoid a lot of pitfalls.
We did. I'm not saying it's been smooth sailing all the time, and we've had our hiccups.
Of course, we need at least one motorcycle.
At
With
least
all
one.
the beeping and we need at least one motorcycle.
Everybody has hiccups in the road, and our youngest, he is high functioning
Okay.
autistic. He's got Asperger's, but I took off almost 7 years of work, and I homeschooled him, and got for the kid that wouldn't talk to anybody like this, and I'd look me in the eye when you talk to me. If you want to eat at the restaurant, you have to order your food to get him to talk to other people.
Mhm,
That's how we
mhm.
kind of started it. And kind of from there, now he's got where he can. We're getting ready to work at getting a job and looking into college. He wants to be an engineer and maybe do some programming.
All right.
And so we're getting there with him. It's just a little slower road for him, but he's a really good, they're good kids. We kind of tried to raise them like we were raised, because he was raised pretty similar to me, and keep them on the right path for the most part.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there's been some honoriness I probably didn't hear about, but
Sure.
Casey, he was really good at telling on himself most of the time. So.
Well, you seem to have a positive outlook, and from the story, was there ever a moment? And it's not like I'm not needling for anything. It's not, but I'm wondering, was there ever a moment where things became tough, like wow, I don't, like one of those moments of, I don't know if this is the right direction, or if I just want to turn around and go back, or
Right, there have been a lot of those. Like, I've been through some bad relationships in the past before I met my husband. I was not good at picking for myself. I have struggled with depression a lot, still do.
I wouldn't guess it.
It is a hard fight battle every day, but usually sunshine always helps. That helps me a lot. Trying to sit and think, you have all this, try to focus on what you have and try not to, mine is probably a chemical thing.
Chemical imbalance thing?
Yeah,
or something?
and so, try to think this is going to pass. And
so does it come in kind of
Yes.
waves, like literally out of nowhere, or is there a
it
trigger
will-
to it?
I used to know, I could tell, oh, here we go again, and then I would know, but sometimes it just flattens me when it's hard to get up out of bed and go to work. But I work with my coworkers. I have a group of friends that I work with that are excellent, and I can usually count on them that if things, we're always cracking each other jokes, always giving each other
Right.
a hard time. I mean, we have our little group and we'll text something and be obnoxious with each other, and it kind of jollies me out of it most of the time, where I can focus on, oh good Lord, you guys, where did you find that? We share memes that we find on Facebook, and the weirder or the more obnoxious that you can find, the better, and we'll take one and run with it to directions that are not polite. But we enjoy that. We have a good time with it, and I usually know that if I go to work, usually by the end of the day I'm going to feel better, because we know we stick together, we look out for each other. Are you
Sure.
okay? Is everything good? And we watch out for each other. And I'm very fortunate to work with those girls.
That's really, truly you are.
And my husband is super supportive. Is there anything I can do?
Ah.
I'm sorry. It's
Hubby,
not me making
you hear
feel
that, hubby?
way,
You
is
hear
it?
that? You're scoring points here, pal.
He is. He's really good. He's been put up with me for this long. I don't know how. Some days not easy to live with. I know that.
I don't know if you are or not, but you have a
Oh,
beautiful
God.
spirit, and
I
and-
can be a holy terror, I'm sure.
Can ya?
Sometimes, yeah.
Nice.
I have a temper. I have a really bad temper. It comes from my dad. Was adopted. My
Yeah.
grandparents, they took the last 3 kids away from him. So, the Gordon side of the family, which is what he was his last name. There is a lovely competitive spirit and good temper that runs through that whole side. And I know most of my cousins, who I love dearly, all you guys, and we are very competitive when we play. We'll get together and play cards, and we play this game. It's a variation of Rummy, and it gets competitive, and you're insulting each other, and it's great. We're very competitive. We're very fiery tempered, but we're usually not that way with each other.
Yeah.
We pretty much, and my cousin, one of them, our kids were, Casey and Zach were the same age, so we were all the same things the whole time they were growing up, because they were in football together, they were in track together, and so we would always be at track meets together, football games together, because my husband worked nights a lot, and so a lot of times Scott and I would go to track meets together because he was divorced.
Okay.
And so we would go to the track meets together and watch the kids do their events.
That's
and then,
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always a good time.
Yeah.
I used to love going to watch my daughter play soccer
Yeah.
and all her matches. My son's on the swim team, but all of that's canceled right now. There's no
Yeah,
swim team. My
yeah.
daughter's 25 and married, so she's not playing
Yeah.
soccer anymore anyway. But On the depression side of things, and that was that something that you experienced as a child, or something that developed
Not
in your
really.
older years?
It's more as I got older, and I think that's kind of when it might have. My grandpa, my mom's dad, kind of struggled with it, and my mom's kind of struggled with it. I think maybe in the 30s, maybe. It
Interesting.
hits, yeah. At least that's when I started trouble with it. I don't know.
Well, it makes
It's
sense
a-
that it could potentially be some type of chemical imbalance issue or something like that, because for it to suddenly rise up in your 30s,
Yeah.
it's somewhat unusual. It seems
Yeah,
like.
and it tends to, when your body is changing and you're getting old,
Hmm.
it throws it out of whack. So,
Right.
Yeah.
What was it like for you then, being in your 30s, when you first started bumping into that wall?
I really didn't realize it at
It
first.
freaked you out?
Mostly it was I don't feel like doing anything. I'm just tired. I don't,
Yeah.
I didn't really feel the deep depression. It was
Oh, thank
mostly
God.
just like kind of got a lack of enthusiasm for everything, but you'd put on a brave face because your kids were playing soccer, they're playing basketball, they're playing baseball. They did everything pretty much until they decided, as they got older, I don't want to do that one anymore. Okay, well, stick with which ones you want. Had a, so I kept busy with all that and kind of could push it to the side.
Yeah.
Like when things would go, you'd struggle with work or something, and it would kind of rear its head a little bit. That you would feel self-worth issues, I guess. You feel like you're not good enough, or
Right.
you don't, I don't know how to describe it. You don't feel like I've always struggled with, I need to feel, I guess, validate myself or with somebody values something I do. So I think that's kind of a common theme with women a lot too, is that you feel like you value yourself. I validated myself through my children.
Yeah.
They were good in school. My oldest he was my social butterfly. He was always, had friends all over, and I've done something good because these are good children, so therefore I have self-worth, that I've done something right. So maybe that's a little bit of it too.
Had your kids already, by the time you were in your 30s, were your kids out of school at that point, or were
Oh
they?
God, no. I didn't have my oldest till I was 24.
Okay.
I was 25 when he was born. I was 29 when the second was born.
Yeah, I guess if I'd
I was a
followed your
late starter,
timeline
yeah.
correctly, I would have figured that out already. I got lost in the timeline. I was trying to see if there was a correlation in something, but there wasn't.
Yeah. So when they were littler, and of course, and you put two kids in there and a marriage, and you're working, and it's rough on your marriage too, and trying to do all that, and you get sharp with each other. You get where you don't have time for each other. And it's very important to stop and say, hey, we need to have a date night. We need to do this, and we've run through some patches where we'll get, you bark at each other, and it's like, we don't as much anymore, I think, because we're both older and we've mellowed out quite a bit. But we still, it's like, hey, let's go do something. Let's try once a month to go do something just us.
That's a fantastic idea.
Often gone, but Colton still lives with us. And, we're going to go out and do this, or we're going to go do that. In fact, there's a new microbrewery in Joplin. My husband's a big IPA guy, loves them. And they've got an IPA, yeah.
Scott's a
If
big,
you're ever back through
big
the
brew
area,
guy.
holler, and I will send you two out, and I will drive you wherever you want to go. We have 3 microbreweries in the area, and there's a big one down in Cassville. He used to work for Boulevard or Mother's or something like that.
Mhm.
And it's beautiful down there. It's a great little microbrewery. My husband loves it because he goes fishing and then he goes to the brewery.
Oh, that's a good time. That's a good time.
So, and we're going to go try that. I'll probably wander down to the little Hubba's Hideout taco bar because they have margaritas.
Lovely.
So I'll probably wander down there and do that, and then I'll come back and see what he's doing.
Well,
So we, and he supports my interests. I support his. I never watched an action movie hardly ever until we got married, and now that's what we watch most of the time.
there's some entertaining ones, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not necessarily, not always the smartest, but
Hey, sometimes those are the best.
yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, in regards to your relationship with your husband, because relationships are never easy. I
No.
haven't managed a wholly successful beginning, middle, and end outcome romantic relationship myself yet. I'm still open to it and hoping for it. But what do you think has been your strongest attribute that you've brought to the table in the relationship?
I'm stubborn. I don't give up easy, and a sense of humor. We both have a sense of humor. We're both very stubborn people. We don't give up easy. And his mom actually gave me the best marriage advice I've ever heard. That marriage is never a 50-50 thing. Sometimes you give 100% and you get nothing back, but there are times you're going to need the 100%, and it's not a 50-50 thing. It's you give what the other person needs, and then they, and that's how you balance it out.
Yeah, it might be 80-40. I mean,
Yeah,
what,
days,
80-20 one day, or 60-40 another day, or
so that
whatever.
was probably the best marriage advice I've ever heard. It is not 50-50, and you can't expect to draw a line down your relationship.
Like the War of the Roses?
Right. It's not gonna work. It's, and I would say the secret to our marriage, for the most part, has been a sense of humor. We've learned to laugh at a lot of things. And sometimes it's not worth getting angry about. There are things he's done ever since we've been married that drive me nuts. And I just go behind him and fix it. The toilet lid has never put down, but I am outranked in the house. I've had a husband and 2 sons, so there was never going to be a toilet seat put down in my house.
Wow.
So
Oh,
I just
man,
learned to live with it and put it
didn't-
down myself.
Yeah, if I didn't put the toilet seat down, no matter where I've lived, woo!
Yeah, so
That'd have been
with 2 sons,
hot water.
I've been exposed to every noise and sound and smell and thing any boys can do. So there's really not a lot that floors me much anymore. So
Yeah.
they're wonderful creatures, boys. It was a whole rude awakening because I just had the one brother, and my grandpa though raised me to be quite the little tomboy. He had to walk because he had some health issues, so he'd walk over this bridge, and there were train cars sitting underneath because he lived by the train depot there in Carthage when they used to have one. So he'd stand over there and we would spit to see if we could hit the train cars.
Nice.
So yeah, he taught me to be quite the little lady. So
Listen,
he prepared me well for life with boys.
Yeah, there is a trick to spitting without having a hanger.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I
Without
don't
getting
think
it on
I
your
could
shirt.
do it now, but I could do it then. Yeah. So yeah, and when I was older, the only people to play with, I had chicken pox. The little boy across the street came over and taught me how to do armpit farts. So I learned to do that when I was younger. So all this teaching in my life was
armpit
preparing me,
farts are the
and
best.
I taught my boys how to do that.
Yes, as you should.
And like I said, my husband worked nights, so I had to teach both boys how to wear a jock strap, which was an interesting experience for me because I just sat there with it going, what do I do with this? I'd read the instructions.
You put the plasticky thing inside of the little slip thing, and then it either snaps and then...
Yeah, I was like, okay, we got it in there. Now how do we put it on? So I looked at the picture. Okay, stand there. Okay, here we go. And then you go to the baseball field, and of course this is baseball. They have to wear them because they're starting pitching.
Sure.
And so you see all these little boys out there going, bam, 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 knocking on the cups, laughing. I don't feel anything. And all these moms are out there going, oh my God. And it's like, what are you going to do? And we did, and like my oldest, his class, they were all like a bunch of puppies. They were friendly boys. And all our parents, like one of the girls, I graduated with her. Both our boys are the same age. So we've been at all the same stuff. We went to high school together, and so we've been through all that. And I know that he could have gone to her mom anytime he needed something, and she knows that Austin and anytime they needed something, we all looked out for each other's kids. So it was, it was a good place to raise the kids.
That's great. That's great.
That anybody, I don't know how many times I wasn't working, so I gave them rides home from football practice, which was horrifying because they were smelly, and I'd have 4 of those little 8th grade boys stuck in my car.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, it's good times right there.
Mm-hmm. But it was fun. I don't regret any choices for the most part, other than some days at work I regret what led me there. It gets busy. We have 5 doctors in our office, and they're full all the time. So some days I wonder, what did I do to deserve this? But no, I do. I love the doctors I work for. Our office coordinator was great too. I just said I need half a day, personal day. I told you a couple of days ago I might need to take off some time, and I don't know when it'll be. It might be short notice. I said, can I go tomorrow afternoon? Yeah, that'd be fine. Not ask me what for, anything, just let me, because I didn't know if I was going to chicken out or not. So I didn't know if I wanted
I'm so
to.
glad that you did not chicken out.
So I do. I work.
It means a
I'm
lot to
very
me.
fortunate with the people I work with, the doctors I work for. They're great. I feel like I've had a pretty pretty good life.
You have. You absolutely
I mean,
have.
it's sad.
Or what is it that about your character that has afforded you the, not the luxury or anything like that, but you know, the ability to make sound choices over time, in order to create a balanced, you know, future and life for yourself and your family. I mean, everybody has a character trait. What is it about yours? You think?
I don't know for sure, other than my parents taught me to think. They saw me through some mistakes I made and said, you know, and I've learned to think things through before I act. I try to use good judgment. I try to be compassionate towards other people. My dad taught me to think for myself. They taught me to think for myself a lot. You know, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. You know, don't just believe it just because so-and-so says it's true. If you're not, you know, just think for yourself, investigate it. And that's always stood me in pretty good stead, to pay attention, to listen to what people say, watch their actions as well, because actions are very telling as well. So I think maybe not having people around when I was little, I learned to watch people a lot more. And being a shy person, I watched people a lot more.
Yeah.
So I got where I could read people fairly well and know.
So a strong intuition.
Maybe, yeah. I think.
Yeah.
I just kind of good at people watching and thinking, that's probably not a good idea, or I think they're full of baloney. I felt like that the other day.
We needed at least one.
One script.
I think he probably just lost a video game. I mean, you know, he probably lost a video game. He shouted out the window and then closed his door, closed the window back.
I feel
he
like
opened it up the window. He was like, ah!
I think
Got that out of my system.
Done that once or twice in the car.
Well, I appreciate all of you sticking with us through this melee.
Sound effect laden.
Yes, my goodness. And I appreciate you so much sharing your life story with us. It's important. I think, you know, for all of us to get to know each other better, and everybody has an arc to their story, and you know, the dramatic arcs sometimes might be more interesting to people, but to me, the ones who seem to be able to ride life the smoothest, straight through, with the least amount of ups and downs and all that, to me, those are the most compelling stories for me personally, because I don't get it.
I feel like I'm horribly boring.
You're not at all, not at all. But you know, that those stories to me, I get a lot out of them, because I'm perplexed, you know, by people's sound reasoning and consistency in actions and character and all of that. So I just want to applaud you on even though you've dealt with some depression, these kind of things and all that, you know, you seem like you got a great handle on it, you know, at least. Yeah. And you know that I'm here.
Days are rougher than others, but hey.
I'm here to make you smile anytime I can, and everybody out there on Love America Tour Twitter will also be there to bring some joy and comfort to all of us, right? That's the game. No haters. No haters. Thanks again so much.
You're welcome.
I love it. I love it. And I'd love to sign an autograph for you or anything like that if you want. You want some extras? Got a couple little pics here for her to take home. Some treats. I know it's not much, but
it's great. Thank you so much.
Can I have a hug?
You bet.
Ah, I love it. I love it. I love it. It's so great to see you again, and I really appreciate you coming out and playing with us and giving us your story. Even though you didn't want to at first. I had to beg. I had to beg.
When I walked out.
But it was
here.
awesome. God bless you.
Can I get a picture with my phone?
You bet you can.